Have you ever pondered how art can eerily predict real-life events? Today we'll be going through 5 mind-boggling cases where it's hard to read the line between fiction and premonition. The Unsinkable Titan. A massive, luxurious ocean liner, proclaimed unsinkable, embarks on its maiden voyage. But tragically it strikes an iceberg and sinks in the icy waters of the North Atlantic. This tale might sound familiar, but it's not the story of the ill-fated RMS Titanic. Instead, it's the plot of the 1898 novella Futility, or The Wreck of the Titan, by Robertson. In this captivating narrative, Robertson tells the tale of the Titan, a colossal ship deemed unsinkable. Much like the Titanic, it had insufficient lifeboats, and its fate was sealed when it hit an iceberg, resulting in a dreadful loss of life. Fast forward 14 years from the book's publication, and the unthinkable happens. The RMS Titanic, a British passenger liner of unprecedented scale, embarks on its maiden voyage. Fate, it would seem, has a cruel sense of irony. Like its fictional predecessor, the Titanic strikes an iceberg and sinks in the North Atlantic, causing a catastrophic loss of life. The parallels between these two maritime disasters are uncanny. Not only do the Titan and the Titanic share strikingly similar names, but the circumstances of their sinking are almost identical. Both were deemed unsinkable, both had insufficient lifeboats, and both met their demise in the frigid waters of the North Atlantic after striking an iceberg. The eerie similarities between Robertson's work of fiction and the real-life tragedy that unfolded years later have left many questioning the nature of this coincidence. Could Robertson, in his creation of the Titan, have somehow foreseen the fate of the Titanic? Or was this simply a case of life imitating art in the most tragic of ways? The unfortunate Richard Parker. Picture this. It's 1838, and Edgar Allan Poe has just published his novel, The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket. The plot is captivating and grim. A ship's crew, stranded out at sea with their supplies dwindling, are forced to make a chilling decision. To survive, they resort to cannibalism. But who should meet such a grisly end? Fate, in the form of lots drawn, decides on a young cabin boy. His name, Richard Parker. The tale is disturbing, yet purely fictional, or so it seemed. Fast forward to 1884, almost half a century later, and we find ourselves in an eerily similar situation. The yacht, Mignonette, far from land, sinks. The surviving crew members find themselves adrift in a lifeboat, desperately clinging to life. As the days pass and their provisions run out, they're faced with the same horrifying choice as the characters in Poe's novel, and so they too resort to cannibalism. The chosen victim? Once again a cabin boy, and his name, chosen by a cruel twist of fate, is Richard Parker. Yes, you heard that right. The same name, the same unfortunate fate as the character in Poe's novel, written almost 50 years prior. The parallels between the two stories are uncanny, to say the least. A work of fiction seemingly predicting a real-life event is no small matter. It's a truly perplexing phenomenon, and one that adds another layer of intrigue to the already fascinating world of literature. The Mysterious Stranger. Let's delve into the curious parallels between Mark Twain's posthumously published work, The Mysterious Stranger, and the infamous Nazi leader, Adolf Hitler. In Twain's narrative, an enigmatic character appears in a medieval Austrian village. His moniker? No, 44. New series 864,962. This peculiar figure, seemingly out of place and time, performs various uncanny feats, causing quite a stir among the villagers. His actions, though perplexing, are not malicious, and he even exhibits a certain charm. But the number 44 attached to this stranger is what piques our curiosity. Fast forward to a different era, and we encounter another figure associated with a number, a character who, unfortunately, is all too real. Adolf Hitler, the man who would lead Germany into the throes of World War II and be responsible for the genocide of 6 million Jews. His Nazi Party membership number was often thought to be 55. However, due to the party's numbering system starting point, it was functionally listed as 555. Now I know what you're thinking, 44 inches and 555 inches aren't the same. True, they're not an exact match. Yet it's intriguing to think about the assembly of numbers and the connection between a fictional stranger and one of history's most notorious dictators. Twain's stranger was an outsider, a figure who brought about change in his environment, much like Hitler did, albeit in a far more destructive and horrifying manner. The stranger's number, 44 inches, might not be a direct match to Hitler's 555, but the correlation between a fictional character with a numerical designation and a real-life dictator provides a fascinating parallel. It's essential to remember that this is just speculation, a thought-provoking comparison between a piece of literature and a historical event. Mark Twain could not have known about Hitler or the atrocities he would commit. Yet the alignment between his stranger and the events that unfolded decades later is a compelling aspect of this story. The Pearl Harbor prediction. Let's venture into the realm of Morgan Robertson's Beyond the Spectrum. This is a story penned in 1914, a tale of the future that witnesses a war between two mighty nations, the United States and Japan. The catalyst for this catastrophic clash: a surprise Japanese attack on the US naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. At this point, it's important to remember that Robertson's novel was written almost 3 decades before the actual event took place. The world was a different place back then. The concept of a global conflict on the scale of World War II was almost inconceivable. Yet, here was a piece of fiction, outlining a scenario that would become a harsh reality. Fast forward to December 7th, 1941, a date which, in the words of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, will forever live in infamy. On this fateful day, the real attack on Pearl Harbor occurred. A surprise military strike by the Imperial Japanese Navy Air Service against the United States naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. An event that would ultimately lead to the United States' entry into World War II. The similarities between Robertson's fictional account and the actual event are striking. The setting, the surprise attack, even the nations involved, all of it aligns almost perfectly with the real-life event. It's as though Robertson had a window into the future, a glimpse of the impending doom that was yet to befall the world. Now, it's easy to dismiss this as mere coincidence. After all, fiction often mirrors reality and vice versa. But the level of detail and the accuracy of the prediction in this case is truly mind-boggling. From the Earth to the Moon. Published in 1865, this work of fiction envisioned a group of Americans launching a manned spacecraft to the moon. Verner's novel is not just a work of imagination. It's a startlingly accurate prediction of the actual moon missions that would take place a full century later. The novel details the spacecraft's dimensions, the launch site, and the splashdown recovery in the ocean. The parallels between Verne's narrative and the real-life events are astonishing. Let's explore the specifics. In Verne's vision, the spacecraft measures 9 meters in diameter, quite close to the Apollo's command module's diameter of 3.9 meters. The launch site, as described in the novel, is in Tampa, Florida, not too far from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral, Florida. Verne also predicted the splashdown recovery in the ocean. In his novel, the spacecraft's return to Earth is facilitated by the deployment of a shock-absorbing material to cushion the landing. This mirrors the real-life Apollo missions, where the spacecraft splashed down in the ocean and the astronauts were recovered by an aircraft carrier. Further adding to the uncanny similarities, Verne's spacecraft, the Columbiad, carried 3 astronauts, just as Apollo 11 did. The American identity of Verne's astronauts also rang true in reality, with the United States leading the charge in lunar exploration. It's fascinating to ponder how Verne, writing in the mid-19th century, could have such a precise vision of space travel. His foresight seems to extend beyond mere coincidence, sparking speculation and intrigue. Did Verne have an uncanny ability to predict the future, or was his imagination so vivid and detailed that it shaped the future of space exploration? So, can life truly imitate art? We've journeyed through some remarkable instances that seem to suggest so. From the hauntingly prophetic sinking of the Titan in Morgan Robertson's Futility, to the unsettling coincidence of Richard Parker's fate in Edgar Allan Poe's narrative, and the uncanny alignment of Mark Twain's mysterious stranger with historical events. We've delved into the startlingly accurate Pearl Harbor prediction in Robertson's Beyond the Spectrum, and marveled at Jules Verne's visionary depiction of a manned moon mission in From the Earth to the Moon. Each of these examples illustrates the perplexing phenomenon of fiction, eerily coinciding with reality, leaving us to ponder the inexplicable connections between imagination and life. Could it be that authors tap into a collective unconscious, Or are these merely bizarre coincidences? Perhaps the next time you pick up a novel, you might just be reading about the future. Until then, keep wondering and keep exploring the mysteries of life. Thank you for spending time with us through Spookscope today. Feel free to share your thoughts and theories in the comment section. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends and family. Until next time, my dear spooker, stay curious.